Shalom, everyone. This is Aaron Lipkin from Israel, Samaria. It's such a pleasure to be on the virtual conference, the Last Trump virtual conference with Prophecy Watchers. So thank you, Bob Ulrich and Gary Stearman, for having me. It's going to be my pleasure to be with you for the next 45 minutes and present a different topic. Usually I speak about Joshua's altar, about the Israelite footprint structures, and other interesting discoveries. This time, we're going to be talking about the United Israelite Kingdom, proving the existence of the House of David and the existence of the Davidic dynasty and the Davidic kingdom during the 10th century, from King Saul all the way to King Solomon. But first, I would like to start with a personal testimony. I grew up as a kid, a Jewish kid in Jerusalem. Our family was a Bible-believing family. We believed in God. We believed in the Bible. I remember as a child praying to God all the time, still do. And it was such a disappointment for me to go to high school in Jerusalem, Jewish secular high school, and to learn in the Bible class that our teacher basically told us that the Bible is a mythology. It's a fairy tale. The stories there never happened. The Exodus never happened. Moses, Joshua, they never existed. The Israelites never conquered the land of Canaan. Forget about the creation. Forget about Noah and the flood. All of these stories never happened. And it went on and on also to my studies in the Hebrew University. In archaeology, a friend of mine, a student of archaeology, came to me and told me, Aaron, you know what they're teaching us in archaeology? That Moses never existed, that Joshua never existed. There's no evidence of the Israelites conquering the land of Canaan. This repeated itself in many ways until one day I met Professor Adam Zartal from the Haifa University. Professor Adam Zartal was not a religious Jew, a Bible-believing Jew. But because of the discoveries he made, discovering Joshua's altar on Mount Ebal, discovering the Israelite footprint structures, discovering evidence of an Israelite invasion into the land of Israel, all of these things made him believe in the Bible, in the historicity of the Bible. Unfortunately, he was in I would say, the minority. And the majority of the archaeologists during the 1980s, 90s, they still don't believe in the historicity of the Bible. However, because of discoveries in the last 30 and 40 years, people in the academic world are changing their mind. And so I'll be happy to share with you some of the discoveries in the land of Israel that are connected and prove the United Kingdom of Israel, the existence of King David. We all believe that they exist. We all believe in the historicity of the Bible, but we need to know this. We need to have that information in order to be able to explain to people who don't believe in the Bible, who think that the Bible is a fairy tale, to tell them, listen, there's hard evidence that these stories happened. And if they happened, there's a good chance that God exists. So I invite you to join me on an exciting journey in the land of Israel. And where the first place we're going to is where the United Kingdom started, where it came from, ancient Shiloh. See you there. Shalom, everyone. We are in Shiloh. Behind me is the archaeological city, the archaeological tell of Shiloh. This site was identified clearly, 100%, as the city of Shiloh mentioned in the Bible. It fits all the criterias, and they actually found an inscription in Greek saying Shiloh. So this is a very exciting moment to be in a place that's described in the Bible, the city that Joshua established as the capital, the religious capital of the 12 tribes of Israel. The tabernacle was here for almost 400 years. The prophet Samuel grew up here. He heard the voice of God talk to him at night, as we read in the book of Samuel 1. And so, why are we here? Why is it important to stand here when we're talking about the United Kingdom? When we read the stories in the book of Samuel, we see the transition from the period of the book of Judges, a time where the tribes each take care of their own. Sometimes they unite one, two, or three tribes to fight against the common enemy, but there is no united kingdom. The tribes are not ruled by one judge, but by many judges, many local judges. This is a time of that there's no urbanization. There are no major cities. Each tribe has villages. They're mostly in agriculture, and this is a transition from a period of village type tribalism to a stage where you have a king, where you have cities, urbanizations, where you have cities that are fortified, where you have an army. An army is created when you have taxes that are being taken from the different tribes to the central rule. And so this is a very critical time, and it starts here. It starts in Shiloh. One of the reasons that scholars believe that the the reason why kinghood was established in the land of Israel after the time of the judges is because of the Philistine invasion into the land of Israel. The Philistines become a very fierce enemy of the Israelite people. We know about the story of Samson fighting the Philistines in the book of Judges. We hear about the story of the battle against the Philistines at Ebenezer and Afek, where the Ark of the Covenant is taken by the Philistines. We later on hear that the city of Shiloh is destroyed, probably by the Philistines. And we read that the Philistines actually established strongholds in the mountainside, in the highlands, in the Mikmash Pass and in Gibeah. And so the Israelites are under the oppression of the Philistines, and they are seeking a way to fight against the Philistines and win. And the only way they see that happening is by crowning a king and uniting all the tribes, creating an army to fight against the Philistines and get rid of their oppression. And so Prophet Samuel, who grows here, who hears the voice of God, who talks to God, who judges the people of Israel after the destruction of Shiloh, is the prophet that is, I would say, responsible for the move from the period of the judges to the period of the king. And indeed, King Samuel crowns King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin, and later on, King David, creating the house of David, ruling over the United Kingdom of Israel, and then later on over the Kingdom of Judah. And so when we talk about the United Kingdom of Israel, we're talking about 100 years, approximately 100 years of rule from King Saul through King David and King Solomon. In historical terms, it's a very short period, a period that unfortunately doesn't leave a lot of evidence that we can learn about the United Kingdom. We have many sources that talk about the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of the 10 tribes of kingdom of Samaria, but we don't find any evidence, any written evidence, either from the land of Israel or around us, from Assyria, from Egypt, from Aram, from Moab and Mesha, from Moab and Ammon, and so we have a lack of evidence for the existence of the United Kingdom. So we talk about the minimalist archaeologists saying the Bible is a mythology. Moses never existed. Joshua never existed. The Israelites were never in Egypt. We're talking about conclusions that derive from lack of evidence, evidence that was not found yet. And when we talk about the United Kingdom, that's the same case. And for many years during the 1980s, the archaeologists basically said King David never existed, the House of David never existed. And that went on until the 1990s. In 1993, in excavations done in the city of Tel Dan in the north of Israel, an inscription was found, apparently written by the king of Aram, a northern kingdom that was an enemy of the Israelite tribes in the United Kingdom for many years. In that inscription, the king of Aram describes the battles that he went in and was involved in. And one of the kings, one of the kingdoms that the king of Aram battled against and won was the house of David. So from that point on, nobody could say King David doesn't exist, the house of David never exists, because it says the house of David. And so if it's the house of David, then a David established that lineage, that kingdom. And so from a situation where the archaeologists are saying we cannot trust the Bible, we cannot trust it because it's not the history book, it's bias, so we only can trust external sources. Come the external sources and say, yes, King David existed. And later on, another inscription that was actually discovered earlier, the Mesha inscription by the king of Mesha in the east, saying that the house of David also existed. So these two inscriptions really make it clear that King David existed. And so if we look at the minimalist view of the Bible, and we have on one side of the spectrum um, the view that the history is that the Bible is historical, and on the other side we have a view that the Bible is a mythology, and we have a dial between those two poles. After finding the inscription of King David in Tel Dan, the dial moves and makes the historical part of the Bible bigger and the mythological smaller in the eyes of the minimalist archaeologists. So now that we have a very clear idea that David existed, King David existed, that there was a house of David, we are left with the exact time that the United Kingdom was that the United Kingdom existed, if it existed, according to the minimalists. And the question: so when did it start? When did the kingdom? When was the kingdom established? When was the move from a tribal society to a national society, from a village type rural society to an urban society? When were the cities fortified? When was there a central rule? So we can't really know unless we continue researching, and we have to go to the central place where we believe that there was a central rule over all of Israel, a united kingdom, and that is Jerusalem. Let's go to Jerusalem. Shalom, everyone. We are finally in Jerusalem, the holy city of God, the place where the temple of God stood, where King David and King Solomon ruled over all of the land of Israel, as we believe is written in the Bible. So when we're looking for evidence for the United Kingdom, the United Israelite Kingdom, the monarchy, the best place, logically, to look for is the capital, the place where the kings sat and gave orders to be implemented all over the land of Israel, where taxes would be collected too. There has to be so much material, archaeological material, written material, ceramics, all the things that archaeologists are looking for in order to establish facts. The problem is that Jerusalem is not helping us so much for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that we cannot excavate in Jerusalem. To my left is Temple Mount. To my right is the city of David, where the original Jebusite and later on Israelite city of David was. And all of this area today is populated, and it's very problematic politically to excavate in that area. So if we can't excavate, we can't find evidence or findings that would help us define or prove that there was a united kingdom in the time that we're talking about. The second problem that we have is that obviously the archaeologists don't accept the Bible as a legitimate historical document. However, they are acknowledging external documents that were found in the last, I'd say, 100 years by archaeologists, and we know that before the Jerusalem of King David, there was a Canaanite city of Jerusalem in this area. Excavations that were done in the last 200 years in Jerusalem were not able to detect, to find the location of the Canaanite city of Jerusalem. We're talking about the Bronze Age, we're talking about the year 1400, 1300. That Jerusalem that is very well documented in archaeological writings, findings that we found, like the El Amarna letters that were written by the king of Jerusalem, complaining about the king of Shechem. He's complaining to Pharaoh. He's asking Pharaoh to send help, military help to Jerusalem. And so it's very clear that there was a Jerusalem, a Jebusite, Canaanite Jerusalem to my right. And however, all the excavations that were done to my right in that area did not find the location, the exact location of the Canaanite city. And we know that King David conquered that Canaanite city and turned it to an Israelite city. And so when we find the Jebusite city, we will also find King David's city. So the only places that there are excavations today is to my right in the city of David. And these excavations yielded a lot of information about the kingdom of Judah. Unfortunately, the findings that could show us that there is monumental buildings and fortifications that were built by King David or King Solomon are under dispute. And they're under dispute in the sense of the dating. I would say that the archaeologists that do believe in the historicity of the Bible claim that these monumental buildings are from the 10th century, from the time of King David. The minimalist archaeologists are saying no, it's from a later period. It's from the year 900 or 800, even 700 BCE. And so there is a dispute between the two camps of the archaeologists about who built those monumental buildings and when they were built. And so, again, unfortunately, Jerusalem is not helping us to prove the existence of a strong kingdom in Jerusalem that existed in the year 1000 BCE for about 100 years. So if we can't look for evidence today in Jerusalem, we have to look in the periphery. Again, if Jerusalem was a strong center, a strong capital, it has to have cities and villages that belong to that city and to that kingdom. So we're going to go to another site in the periphery and look at the evidence that was found there in excavations that were done in the last few years. But I'm asking you not to give up on Jerusalem. I have a very strong feeling that in the next few years, we're going to find more and more evidence to prove the existence of the Judite kings and possibly also the existence of the United Kingdom. So keep praying for the archaeologists that are excavating here, and please pray that more and more areas are going to open up for archaeological digs. And just to finish this place, this explanation, I really invite you to come with us to Jerusalem and to all the other sites that we're in. It's such an amazing experience, an amazing feeling to be here, to be close to the biblical sites that are described in the Bible. Shalom from Jerusalem, and see you in the next spot, Tel Qeiyafa, the city of Qeiyafa. Shalom, Prophecy Watchers, Last Trump Virtual Conference. This is Aaron Lipkin reporting from Qeiyafa, Tel Qeiyafa. This is an archaeological site that was excavated between the years 2007 to 2013 by a professor of archaeology, Yosef Garfunkel. First of all, where are we? We are in the Elah Valley. The Elah Valley is very famous for the battle between King David and Goliath. And so I'm actually looking right now at the Elah riverbed where that battle happened. Just to think about it, you know, we've been reading the Bible for thousands of years in different places in the world. But when you're in Israel, you can actually see and touch the places that the Bible describes, which is, I think, overwhelming. It's amazing. Why is that important for us? It's important because we need to remember that this area that we're in right now is definitely in the periphery. We were just in Jerusalem. We understood that Jerusalem at the moment is not something that can help us really to understand about the United Kingdom of Israel, about the house of David. It's hard to excavate in Jerusalem. But if we had a strong government in Jerusalem, then this government should have strong outposts, fortified outposts, places that it's apparent are not this small family village or rural area, but a city, a fortified city that had to have a central rule, taxes to be collected, engineers. There needs to be a very clear structure or city that can show that we have, at that time, central governance. Because the minimalist archaeologists are saying that during the 10th century, again, we're talking about around the year 1000 BCE, there is no central rule, there is no kingdom in Judea at that time. The kingdom gets established later on around the year 900 BCE. That's the claim of the minimalists. That basically means that the kingdom of King David could not have existed at the time that the Bible claims it existed. So we're going out to the periphery, we're looking for sites that could show us, again, a city that that is fortified, a city that has a strong wall. We have to determine that it's a Judite city, that that the city was built during the time of the 10th century, when we think King David and King Solomon ruled. And guess what? As I said, in 2007, Professor Garfunkel decided to excavate this archaeological tell. Now, bear in mind, this site was known for many years before Professor Garfunkel excavated it. But because of the paradigm, because of the understanding of the minimalist archaeological community, the academic world, that this site could not be from the time of King David, around the year 1000, the people, the archaeologists that came here before Professor Garfunkel, identified this site as belonging to the 9th century, around the year 900 and 900 and 800. So when Professor Garfunkel started excavating this site, he found things that really would blow your mind, things that would very clearly identify this place as Judite. And even more than that, well, I'll tell you about the dating at the end, because that is really the most important thing. So I'm sitting right now on the threshold of a gate that belonged to that city. And there are actually two gates for the city, which is something that is not common at all. And so we have a city that has two gates. The wall of the city has it's a case wall, which means that rooms and accommodations were built on the other side of the wall all around. And this is something that's very typical to Judite and also Israelite cities in that time, in the Iron Age period. Other things that were found here, they found shrines very close to the gate. In that shrine, they found a box that depicts a picture of a very magnificent building. When we read the description of the way the entrance to the temple in Jerusalem, it fits the look of those boxes, which is very interesting. And so these boxes were inside the shrines close to the gate, and possibly could have held important or holy objects to the people that were living in this city. Something that's very typical for Judite cities or Israelite cities is the fact that there are no figurines, there are no small statues, pagan statues in those cities. And this is something that's very common in Canaanite and Philistine cities. This city has no figurines, and this is really remarkable. The bone assemblage, the animals that were slaughtered in this city are very distinct. They're very typical to a Judite city, which means no pig bones, no donkey bones, no horse bones. All the bones that were found here belong to pure animals, as written in the Bible. Two inscriptions were found in the city. And this is actually very interesting because it's the first, most ancient Hebrew inscription that we found in the land of Israel. This is the most ancient Hebrew inscription. So again, we found a Hebrew inscription inside this city in a language that is very unique to the Hebrew language. This is typically Hebrew, identified as Hebrew. And so we have all the elements we need to state that this site, this city, this fortified city, was Judite. Very clearly, very, very clearly a Judite city. But then people can come and say, well, this city could be from the year 900 or the year 800 BCE. What is the dating of the city? When was this city established? When was it destroyed? And so before I get to that, I just want to say that geographically, as I said, we're in the periphery. There is a reason why King David fought Goliath in this place, because the border with the Philistines is very close to where we are. The city of Gat, one of the 5 cities of the Philistines, is actually visible from here. So we are on the border. This is a border city with the kingdom of the Philistines. And so from the archaeological excavations that were done here, it seems like this city existed for only 30 to 40 years and then abandoned, which is very typical to a place that is on the border, because you always have battles, you always have raids, and it can explain why this city was abandoned. But the really fascinating thing that was found here is olive seeds, burned olive seeds. And why is this important? It's important because in the past it was very hard to date archaeological sites. But thanks to science, there is a special test called carbon-14. And when you find organic matter, like an olive grain that was burned, it's very easy to take that olive grain, pass it through a laboratory test, and get a very definite date, or shall I say range of dates. And the olive grains that were found here have been dated to the year 1040, 1050, plus minus 20 years. And we're talking exactly about the time of the reign of King David, possibly King Solomon. So this is something that is really revolutionary for you, for us, Bible believers. It's not a surprise. But here we have a clear scientific evidence to show that during the time of King David, there exists a fortified Judite city in the area of the kingdom of Judah. And what this does basically is it totally destroys the theory of the lower chronology, which means that there was no Judite kingdom ruling from Jerusalem in the year 1000, which is what the Bible says. And what we have here is a total destruction of the lower chronology and going back to the original biblical chronology, that there was a strong kingdom in Jerusalem, strong enough and wealthy enough to be able to build such a fortified city in the periphery. If that's the case in the periphery, then as we get closer to Jerusalem, it's very logical that we would find more and more of these fortified cities. And so the excavation here really proves the chronology of the Bible, the existence of a strong rule, a strong government in Jerusalem. And so what do we have here? We have a situation where in the 1970s and 1980s, King David, according to the archaeologists, is a myth, is a legend, never happened. And then in 1993, the Tel Dan inscription is found, very clearly showing that King David and the house of David existed. And then we move on to the next minimalist archaeological theory that says there was no kingdom in Jerusalem strong enough to be able to have a kingdom. It was only a tribal clan of some sort that had no power, and the urbanization of Jerusalem, the greatness of Jerusalem only came during the year 900 BCE. This site advances us in the dial, the spectrum I spoke about. It takes the dial and erases the mythological part of that dial. We're back in the year 1000 with a strong kingdom in Jerusalem that is able to build such a city. So, have we proven the existence of the United Kingdom of Israel according to what's written in the Bible? No, or not yet. But we have advanced a great length to show and to prove that there was a strong rule in Jerusalem, a kingdom, during the year 1000 BCE that could have conquered all of Israel and as the Bible says, had a united monarchy, united kingdom in the land of Israel for about 100 years. Um, I'm very hopeful that very soon we'll be able to share more and more of these discoveries that strengthen the veracity of the Bible. And I invite you to order my Bible teachings about Joshua's altar, the discovery of Joshua's altar on Mount Ebal by Professor Adam Zartal, the Israelite footprint structures that were found in the Jordan Valley and Samaria, identified with the ancient Israelite holy sites of Gilgal, along with two other Bible teachings about Shiloh, the first capital of the Israelite tribes, and Bethel, the site of Jacob's dream of the ladder, the gate of heaven. And I hope to see you very, very soon here in Israel, touring and watching and visiting all these amazing sites that we have around us. The Bible really comes alive when you're here and you're seeing the places and you're feeling the holiness and the presence of God in the land. Shalom from Israel.